about it.
Two.
I don't know what team it was. I don't remember their name.
We didn't have a ballot lineup, so.
It's always good to see when teams that represent the rec center don't follow the rules that we set.
We had some people that were signed that didn't show up, so.
That's good.
Yeah. We won more than we had more victory.
Moral victory. I wish we would have got the chance to play again. Well, welcome. This is one of my favorite groups to talk to because in a lot of ways, you're something that drives me personally and gets me up and gets me going because I have the opportunity to work with you and help give you the resources that you need to be successful. And that's really what my role is in many ways, whether it's other full-time staff in the building or student staff like yourself that are helping lead us and drive us and take us in the right direction. How many of you are familiar with college basketball? At the beginning of the season, there's a Coaches for Cancer, the V Foundation, Jim Valvano. Now, he passed away in the 90s, but I would encourage you at some point to watch his YouTube video on the ESPYs if you haven't seen it. It's very inspirational, very moving. He ended up dying from his cancer shortly after that speech, but it's very moving to hear the things he talked about. One of the things he talks about in his speech that he calls living a full day is if you love, you laugh really hard, and you cry. If you do all three of those things in a day, love, laugh, and cry, it's going to be a really good day. You're going to feel alive. Your humanness is going to come out. I'm starting off this speech in a little different way. It's because of something I just became aware of. Every month or so, Terry, I'm not sure how often it comes out, and I'm not even an alumni, but I get the Miami alumni newsletter, or magazine rather, in my mailbox. It sounds morbid, but the first thing I go to is the accomplishment section and then the obituary section at the end, just to see if there's anyone that I've worked with over the course of my time here. I've been here since 1997. I always go there to see if there's anyone that I recognize. Sadly, I recognize that last month, apparently, a student that graduated 12 years ago died. And she was on lead staff. And 12 years ago, she was in the chair you're in today. And I say that not to be sad, but just talk about the gratitude I have for each of you. And going back to that love, laugh, cry thing, there are a lot of emotions that came out. So what do you do when you haven't been in touch with someone for a long time in this day and age? You go to Facebook to find out what's going on. I was friends with her, but I'd miss it. I hadn't spoken to her at all since she graduated. But here's what I know about Faith. Faith exhibited the same qualities that each of you represent while you're here today. She had a genuine willingness to serve others and create the best customer experiences that was in her power to do. And she valued every interaction she had with people. I knew that about Faith in her time at Miami. When I read her all the friends on Facebook posting stuff about her after she passed, she had gone on to be an elementary school teacher, which was no surprise. We knew she wanted to do that. But hearing the testimonials from her students, parents, and people she worked with in the community, it made me feel very special and thankful that I got to be part of her life and to be connected with her and see the things that she shared with other people. And I'm circling that back because I feel the same way about each of you. I have less interaction with customers than any of you do on any given day. But I also know that your interactions are making myself and the entire recreation services staff look good and be successful. You are the ambassadors for everything we're doing. And that's really important because as you work your way up through different leadership levels, at some point you need to find people to serve in those ambassador roles. And that's really what each of you are. You're ambassadors helping us be successful. And I know I'm a little bit off track from what was on your outline about what I'm going to talk about, but I want to circle back to it. But I want you to understand that. Because one of the things I always talk about with this group every single year is one of the ways you can continue this legacy of your accomplishments, your achievements, your impact as a leader is find your replacement. How many of you are graduating at the end of the year? Okay. So I would expect of the 7 of you that you have found at least 14 replacements to carry on the legacy you're Don't just think it's 2 per person. You can do as many as you want. I don't want to discourage that. But find your replacement. Find that person that is in that middle 70% group that you can pull up to be a 10%er. To carry on your legacy, develop them as a leadership, help share your belief in excellence, help share your belief in your passion for the things that we're doing and your passion for service. So find that. One of the things I tailor my talks to.
We can get you a black one because.
Yes.
So yeah, throw that one away too.
I think that's 6. Yeah. One of the things on your leadership journey that I hope you can find, and maybe you're formulating thoughts about it already, is defining your leadership philosophy. It's one of the most powerful things you can do, and it's going to circle back to what I'm going to talk about in a moment about awareness. Thank you, Terry. Miami Red. So, years ago, whenever you get the chance to talk to professional organizations and student organizations you work with, seize that opportunity to do it. Because even if you suck, you're going to learn something about it and be better. And I will tell you, you're not going to suck. The odds of you do, just the fact that you're getting up and doing it, it's going to be of great value to yourself and others. But I give a presentation, and what I usually do is I submit a presentation to the ORSA conference, and I really don't know what I'm going to talk about other than I'm just going to present it. I wait to see if it gets accepted before I start working on it. But I had one accepted years ago on leadership, student development, and after I got accepted, all right, well now I need to do the work to present it. So I mentioned how powerful it is to develop your leadership philosophy. So in the middle of that presentation, I was presenting with 2 other people, and I told them that I had developed a leadership philosophy for myself that was called 6E. And one of the presenters with me, she was at the University of Akron. We went to the same high school together. It's neat how people connect. She said, "Oh, it's sexy leadership." I said, "Yes, it is. It's sexy." But 6E is how it was defined for me. And it's been the cornerstone of everything I talk about from a leadership standpoint ever since. And why I'm sharing these thoughts with you is because there's nothing magical about it, but I do believe there are things that you can take as a transferable skill set to anything you pursue this year and beyond. So the first one is energy. Do any of you have someone in your life that you just want to hang out with them so much because they're a low energy person complaining all the time? Does anyone have that? Conversely, how many of you seek to find people that are positive, have high energy? I'm not talking about being an extrovert versus an introvert. I'm talking about just high energy, positive. They have a positive vibe about them. Does anyone like hanging around those kind of people? Okay. That's why, to me, it's the foundation of 6E. It's having that energy. And there's so much into it. It's your mindset. It's your diet. It's your exercise routine. By golly, we talk about this in everything we do with recreation. We talk about helping people recreate, renew themselves so they can live a high quality of life, right? And that's, as a recreation person, that's our core belief. We're trying to provide people fun, engaging opportunities to help them have a high quality of life. So by golly, leadership and recreation, we should strive for energy. Energy will carry you through the good times and you'll get momentum off of it, but it's also going to pull you through the times that aren't so good. Whether it's the crying that we talked about, the anger, frustration. When you're dealing with people, it's the best thing about your job as a leader is you deal with people. The worst part about your job is you deal with people. The scale's always tipping back and forth. So you need to have high energy. You're all in this role. Quote I heard years ago is, if you want something done, give it to a busy person. Has anyone ever heard that before? Yeah. It's very true. The people that are busy for a reason, because people rely on those folks. They count on them. They know it's going to be done. It's going to be done at a high level. Well, you need the energy to do that. So proper rest, diet, exercise, mindset, things are so important. I know a lot of you are in the business school, and even those of you that aren't. Has anyone ever heard of EI? Anyone? Hannah?
I'm going earned income.
No,
I'm an accountant.
that's good though.
You brought up business school.
Emotional intelligence.
Not what I was thinking at all.
No, that's good. She's an accountant. See, she's taking her knowledge and applying it. So there's debate whether there's scientific merit in measuring intelligence, just like the IQ test. Is there an emotional intelligence score? To tell you the truth, I don't care. The components that the guy talks about with it are what I think is very important. So, self-awareness. It is very important as a leader to know what your strengths are, your weaknesses, your blind spots, your mindset, your mentality. Having that self-awareness. The second one is self-regulation. There are times where you're going to be extremely pissed and want to cuss and swear and berate somebody. It's probably not the best thing to do. Okay? Having that self-awareness is self-regulation rather, is very important to control your temperament, have your patience. We all have those times where we blow up or we don't react. We react very emotionally. It's the fight or flight nature that we have. But we have to try and scale the fight or flight back and think more deeply about it. Third one is social skill. Are you talking enough? Are you talking too much? Are you communicating enough? Are you communicating the right things? Are you not considered a deviant? Are you talking respectfully to people? Social skill is a very important thing to have. And if you know that you have trouble meeting people, try to put yourself in situations where you're doing that. But having that social skill, being able to relate to people, very important. Has anyone worked for a leader before that did not have good social skills with their team? It's kind of awkward, isn't it? You never know what the person's thinking. It's just a very uncomfortable feeling. The best leaders can have that relatability to each other. Empathy. Really understanding the other person's position is what empathy is. Understanding their feelings, what they're thinking. That's really what becomes connection, which I know you talked about already. And then motivation. What is your motivation to get things done and be successful? Obviously, people that are highly motivated, such as yourselves, understand how important that is. And it drives you crazy when people aren't motivated, right? If anyone driven crazy by someone that just doesn't want to be doing it, So motivation. So the third one, expectations. I don't know if it's, I don't want to sound egotistical, but I think the higher level of leadership position you get into, such as the one I sit in, Terry sits in, Kara sits in, is the higher level of thinking needs to be for your organization. And I believe how you accomplish that and communicate that is sharing expectations with people. You will hear when I talk to the staff on Sunday about I believe we have a strong tradition of excellence at Miami. And I believe we have a responsibility to maintain that and exceed that and build on it. Those are my expectations. It's very high level talking about what your expectations are. And then as leaders, you have to develop the tools to help people meet those expectations. But setting those expectations. I have a strong belief that you're here because you feel that what we do is very special and you like being a part of it. I just had that feeling. I don't think any of you would put yourselves through this if you didn't have that feeling. Okay? So having that high level of expectations, you have a high level of expectations for yourself and for your team. You need to communicate those things. The fourth one is empowerment. Once you find those people that have the leadership skills, the customer service skills, and the skill set to excel, as a leader, you need to let them do it. Knowing how each of you are, because I know each of you personally, is there any one of you that enjoy having someone looking over your shoulder constantly to see if you're doing the job right? Is there anyone that enjoys that? I see no hands going up, so I have a sense that you like and appreciate when you're given autonomy. That shows trust. That shows respect. Your job as a leader, again, is to provide the tools to help that person be successful. Give them the tools, give them the resources, and get the hell out of their way. Okay? If I sit over Terry's shoulder during a swim meet to run the aquatic scorers table, it would be a disaster. The meets would last 6 days instead of 3. People would be timing but with their stopwatches, and it would be chaos. I can't do that, and I'm not going to. Terry's going to do it because that's her skill set. Okay? So giving people autonomy and empower them. Listen when people bring you suggestions. If any of you came up to me with a suggestion and it doesn't appear that I'm listening, give me a smack in the back of the head. I'm serious. If any of you watch NCIS, you know what I'm talking about. You get his head smacked. I'm serious. I need to be listening. Listening is a very important thing for a leader. It might be the most important thing. But that shows respect and empowerment for people. The fifth E is execution. We can talk all we want, and it could be good talk. It could be good thoughts. We could have big dreams. But if we don't get out here and do something, it really doesn't mean anything. It's just talk. I'd rather have someone that has a half-hearted dream and executes it 100% rather than someone who's dreaming and doesn't do a damn thing. You've got to execute. You've got to work with your teams and develop an action plan. You've got to develop systems to put those things in place. You just have to. Or else it's just talk. It's just rubbish. It's just blather. We're in the season of blather right now, are we not? There's an election coming up. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. I'm not going to do this. I'm not going to do that. I really don't care, per se. I do care about some of it, but your actions are what is really important. Yeah? Execution. All right? The last one is evaluation. How do you know How do you know how you did? Sound like Yogi Berra. How do you know how you did? You have to evaluate it. You have to take a hard, tough look sometimes at why things went well and why things did not go well. You've heard the phrase silver lining in the clouds. I think the silver lining is, in fact, figuring out what went right and what went right and what went wrong and making it better the next time. If we can feel good about something, well, let's do the next thing. If we feel bad about something, let's do the next thing. You can only get to that through evaluation. As a leader, which each of you are, and as a supervisor, it is a great disservice if you are supervising someone and the first time one of your staff hears that you had an issue with them is in the semester or annual evaluation. If that's the first time they've heard it, you've done a disservice to that person as a leader. They should have heard about it at the time it happened, or soon after. Dropping a surprise bomb on somebody during a feedback evaluation session does not serve anybody. Okay? Feedback from customers, taking that and applying it. You have to look at these things and evaluate it. Processes are so important, and how you can make those things better. So that's my 6C model. It is sexy, isn't it? Yes.
Why do you break it up like that with the line in between evaluation and execution and EI and expectations?
It's just the way I've
Okay, I know there's like a meaning behind the line cutting through the.
no, it's just a pie chart.
Okay, alright.
I was trying to make a fancy graphic. I'm not an artist, as you can see. But yeah, this is what I call my 6E model. I could have done bullet points too. There's no rhyme. Well, what's important is the order that I did present it. I think in my mind that's the order of importance. You need to have this first, then this, then this, and this. So in terms of this, it's very sequential, but it does loop back and forth. You know, you could have an evaluation where something that you deemed as a bad process was in a bad customer situation. The person handling the situation might have had no energy. So it does circle back at times. Okay. Any questions about this other than making fun of my artwork? So now the next thing I want to talk about is transferring skills. Something I've heard periodically throughout my tenure, and it drives me crazy, is when a student comes up to me and they tell me about a job interview they had, and I ask them, well, what did you say about your experience here? And they said, well, I really couldn't say anything. Really? I've heard that from lead staff. Really? We did an awful job preparing you. Evaluation. Okay, so I don't want to make that mistake at all. There are transferable skills, and you have to think a little bit about this. And I've taught a class for the last couple semesters, and if you've not taken advantage of the Career Services Center, you need to do that. I don't know if it's the top thing to do on your list, but it should be on the top 10 to get over as soon as the semester starts. They do a wonderful job with interview prep, resume, all that stuff. Okay? Going back to awareness, you need to have an awareness of the skills and experiences that you bring to the table. Has anyone heard this term before? Soft skills? Yes, when Hannah is interviewing to be an accountant, she probably is not going to talk about in her interview how doing first aid on someone who sprained an ankle has helped her be a better accountant. Probably doesn't. Unless she can relate it to the fact of, I know how to work under pressure in an extremely chaotic environment, such as tax time, I don't know what kind of accounting she's going to do. But let's just say she's doing tax work. Well, there's a deadline for taxes. That's a high pressure environment. Customers are throwing stuff at you at the last minute. You got to get it done. She can relate her ability to work in a high pressure environment, going down and taking care of someone who was screaming because they rolled their ankle playing basketball. Okay. You've got to think about ways you can relate your experiences. Okay. Awareness and relating it to new things is very important. So, soft skills. I study this quite a bit and I hear about it a lot. Employers are talking so often about people your age, when they get into the job market, they get hired, or even in the interview process, seeing a tremendous lack of soft skills. You are getting great experiences here to help you with that. First of all, reliability. It is amazing how often I hear people complain about just getting people to show up. It's unbelievable. Does that seem odd to you, just getting people to show up? Liability? It's out there. It's a real thing. Just having that. And you can talk about those times I had to work 5:30 in the morning when I was up doing a paper till 4, and I showered and came to work. That's an example of your reliability, giving those concrete examples. It's a very real thing. I work till 2 in the morning because we have an after hour. But showing that reliability. Going back to this, positive attitude. Just people that are excited to come to work and bring energy. Employers are looking for that. If you can bring to your job interview things that you heard from your supervisors and the people that you supervise, sets you apart. Ability to think and problem solve. Do any of you ever have to problem solve when things pop up here? Yeah. All right, one person. See a lot of nods there, so that's good too. Okay. You have to think, and you have to think on your feet. Well, how do you do that? You've learned how to do that because you've got the confidence, you've got a lot of personality things, but you've also taken advantage of the tools and resources that you've learned how to do that, right? Showing an ability to apply knowledge. How many of you have thought to yourselves in the classroom, this is all theory, when am I going to apply this? It's probably the same thing here. You go through an in-service saying, oh my gosh, when am I going to apply this? Well, show employers that you've applied knowledge. It sets you apart. The ability to think and problem solve. It's such a big thing. I hear about this on podcasts all the time. I hear people talking about it that say, if I'm able to find someone who's reliable, and I'm able to find someone that's skilled enough to do the work, they're not thinkers. They're just doing the job. What sets you apart is the ability to think next level. Get your work done, think next level. Very important. Problem solving. It shows that next level thinking. And then the last one is how far you are willing to stretch and grow. I heard a statistic the other day, and I don't know how the statistic was applied, so I don't know how valid the instrument was. Again, I don't really care, other than it was eye-opening to me. A survey of college graduates, and I don't know how it was done, a survey of college graduates said that 70% of college graduates, after they had graduated from college, had not read a book. That blows me away. How in the hell can you be a leader and not read and take in content? That amazes me. And people are proud of it. Some people are, oh, books and stuff. I think you're stupid if you haven't done that. There's only 2 things that are going to make you different 5 years from this day are the relationships you have and the things that go into your mind, whether it's reading, videos, podcasts, whatever. Okay. So Those are the only things that change you. Relationships and the things that go into your mind. So being reliable, having that attitude, ability to think and problem solve. Are you willing to stretch and grow? Are you a learner? I see some of you taking notes. I see all of you taking notes, which pleases me, because whether or not you ever look at these notes again, the fact is, if you write it down, you're 40% more likely to remember it. Again, I don't know where these stats come from, but I come across them, so what the heck, I'll share it with you. So, I want to get back to the awareness piece. These are some questions that I want you to think about that help prepare you for these interviews and in your networking opportunities. And also, I would hope it makes you feel good about yourself, because you're here for a reason, because you are very special to us. You are in the top 10% of our staff. Okay? So the first question is, why did I get this role? Why am I in this seat today? How did you get here? Angus, why are you in this seat?
I really like to help people, and I also really just like, the mentoring roles, the relationships that I've built up at the rec, and continuing moving up, you know what I mean, into being able to provide the experience that I've had with new employees is my favorite thing, and meeting the new people that come on this semester is going to be really exciting.
That's a great answer. When I talk about thinking, something I'm very big on, and I drive Terry crazy with this, is next level questioning. I ask Terry questions all the time, and she always wants to slap me in the head.
True statement.
But next level questioning is a sign of someone who's really thinking, who's really intelligent. So, McKinley,
Same question.
same question, but why did Terry put you in this seat?
Why did Terry put me
Yeah,
in this
what
seat?
what about you made her put you in this seat?
She saw my leadership qualities with working with the kids and helping out instructors with learn discipline, being in the program for a long time. Saw good qualities in me, seen that I've worked my butt off here. And I've worked through the ropes getting up to this point.
Good answer. Is that true?
It is true, and I'd add one more thing, is that all of you are hired not only for what you know now, but where we know you can go. We know that, I use the word moldable, that, you're willing and open to learn more, which, some of the cohorts in your thing think they know it all, and that's a trait that we value in all of you, that you're willing to learn more.
Yeah, there's a phrase that I really like. If you're the smartest person in the room, find a different room. Because that's where you stretch and grow. So that was the first question. Why did I get this role? Kind of ties into it. What if people always said I'm good at? What if people always said I'm good at? Jordan, what if people always said you're good at?
I guess being personable, being reliable, the ability to use my experiences, talk to people, or just listen. That's one of my strengths
Do you apply that in your leadership?
every day.
See? You better talk about that when you're in job interviews. Okay? That's really good. Okay. Knowing what you're good at and what your strengths are is very important. How many of you have been involved with athletics? Miss Wright.
Yeah.
Were you the ball handler on your team?
No, that was not really fun.
But what did you bring to the team? I saw you play basketball.
I could shoot the ball.
Yes. So me as a coach, basketball is what I know, so that's why I picked on it. So if I'm a coach, there were three players on your team. Three players that probably scored 80% of points on your team. I think your junior year, that's probably true. Or was it?
Yeah, I would say My senior year, that was true too.
Richardson, Richter, and you. Were you all in the same class?
No, they were older than me, so my junior
Okay,
year.
you're junior. That's what I thought. Okay. So those three scored 80% of the points. So as a coach, you know what? I want them taking at least 80% of the shots. And it's not a glory thing. It's not a selfish thing. I think people focus on scoring as the most important thing in basketball. It's important. There's a lot of things very important. But I wouldn't want her dribbling the ball against two people pressing her. She's going to lose it. Okay? Unless she's far enough to know she's not a great dribbler, she just makes a pass fake and then she's rid of the ball. That's good too. Okay? But you've got to play to your strengths. Bob Knight, well-known basketball coach, one of the things he always told his players was, stick to your strengths and stay the hell away from your weaknesses. You can work on your weaknesses, but odds are they're never going to be as good as the things you're good at. Okay? I can tell you why this is so important to me. Expectations at the front end are so important to me because I found if I didn't make those things clear, I wouldn't know what people expected. And it was tougher for me to communicate as a leader after the fact what my expectations were than at the front end. So often, every time I go into a situation now, the first question I ask is, what do we want this to look like when we're done? And then work backwards. Okay? I just knew that about myself. I didn't want to keep coaching on the fly. I wanted people to have an understanding because that's just kind of throwing stuff out there. It is not what I'm good at working with. Okay. What do you want and why is the third question. And I want you to think a little deeper about that. What kind of environment do you want to be part of? What type of people do you want to work with? What type of work do you want to do? It's so important to get clarity about the things you want. Because it also helps you stay away from the things you don't want. Now, no situation is going to be 100% perfect. I think you all realize that. But if you can get a high batting average with it, that's what you're after. Okay? So what do you want and why? What do you want out of life? There's no shame in thinking about family. There's no shame in thinking about spouses. There's no shame in thinking about where you want to live and the kind of things you want. There's no shame in that. Just having awareness of it is important. And then think about why you're doing it. What are the reasons? This is an exercise I'm not asking you to do now, but I would encourage you to do it at some point, is write a thank you letter to someone who invested a lot of time into you personally. Someone that helped you get to the seat that you're in today. Just write them a thank you note. It's such a gratifying thing. I know Terry's big on this. One thing I have in my daily routine, and I'll say I don't do it all the time, I try and write at least one thank you note to someone every day. It makes me feel good. It gets me in a good state of mind. But you're also showing appreciation for someone new. So if you've got someone on your team that comes in and picks up a shift on short notice, what are the odds of success in the future? As a leader, you're always making a decision that sets up something now and in the future. If you write a thank you note to someone who came in on short notice, are they more or less likely to do that again? I can tell you they're definitely more likely to appreciate that you appreciated them and notice that you took the extra time to do it. And then if you let Terry know about that or the other aquatic leadership team, you let them know that that's a good thing to do. Building people up, you can't go wrong with that. If you're building up people in a legitimate way. Not blowing smoke, but doing it in a legitimate Second thing I want you to do, and it kind of ties to what we just talked about with that last question, is I would like you to start developing a top 100 list of things that you want out of life. I heard this exercise is done by a well-known author named Brian Tracy. And this is one of the exercises he has all his clients do. And he talks about time and time again how he'll run into people 5-10 years from now and they'll have accomplished most of the things on that list. Think big about it. Think across the board. Write 100 things. And again, it's just setting expectations. Once you start throwing things out there, it's amazing how things happen. I've always been amazed at if you just put a thought out there and write it down, how often someone who's connected to that thought enters your life. It's awesome. I don't know the science behind it, but it just happens. So just getting things out there. Going back to this, I think it's a good practice, even if you aren't interviewing for jobs, but you always need to be thinking about interviewing and having that elevator speech ready. Document your successes and your struggles. Whether you blog about it, just write it in a journal. Again, just write it. The act of writing it down helps you remember it. I'm always amazed that when someone brings something up to me that I completely forgot about, I write it down. I'm very much a next play kind of person, so I don't remember a lot of things. And that's the way for me to cope with that is to write it down. But document those things again, because when you go to those interview situations, I know that's one of the big hurdles coming up next, that you can talk about it. This is something I was really involved with successfully, and this is why. And then people are always going to ask, people always ask two questions in an interview. What are your weaknesses or the things you're trying to improve on? And give me a situation where something didn't go quite the way you expected. And I can guarantee virtually 95% of the time, if the interviewer is doing their job and really wants you in that job, they're going to ask you those two questions. I guarantee it. So at least have something in your toolbox that helps you remember that. Okay? I talked about finding your replacement already. Okay? The sad reality for us, full-time staff, is that you're going to leave. And it's really hard for us when you leave. It's really, really hard when you leave and we don't have a replacement for you. That's why I say, get your replacement ready. No one can identify your replacement like you. I know that if I left this job today, this afternoon, after Kara said something, just be mad. She never does. It's just hypothetical. I have at least 3 people in my mind that I know I want to take my spot. It shows a care and a commitment to the organization. And if you truly have that care reflected, you want to be successful after they're gone. Something that's very true. I think the best mark of a leader is what happens 2 years after they're gone. Where the things that were going really well, did those continue? And did they get better or did they get worse? I really think that's a true mark of a leader. Much like now, if I go on a week vacation for a week, they still run smoothly. You shouldn't create situations where you're creating the dependence on yourself so much where no one else is involved that when you leave, people say, what the heck's going on? The best mark of a leader is when they share and get those replacements ready. As a leader, I want to make you aware of these things. I think you have an awareness of the first one already. But again, awareness is so important. I call it the microscope. You as leaders, I would suspect you're always looking into the microscope and saying, why did Terry do that? Why did Kara do that? Why did we do this? Why did Ron do that again? I've told him 5 times. He just doesn't listen. How many of you do that? Look into the microscope and you just I hope you're not doing it in a destructive manner, talking to other people about it. I hope you're going and sourcing and having those conversations. Gossip is very destructive. That doesn't serve anyone. Okay? So go try to fix it. But just having the conversation is important because sometimes perspectives are brought up that you weren't aware of. So I know you look into the microscope. Here's the other reality of the microscope. You're under it. People are looking at you saying, why did Jess do this? Why did Owen do that? Why did Autumn do that? Why does Autumn send all those emails out about staff quizzes? I don't get it. I just don't. Doesn't she think I know my job? Yeah? You're under the microscope. So make sure you're doing the right things, and if you're not, circle back, evaluate it, apologize, and move on. But you're under, it's the microscope. You've got both sides of it now. Did you realize that? So, the microscope. Okay. Last thing I wanted to talk about, and I've referenced it already. The numbers aren't necessarily important. 10, 70, 20. The percentages could go in a variety of ways. But this is what I mean by this overall. This is the elite level of team members. It could be 10, it could be 20. Hopefully it's not 2. The higher, the better it is. This is where most people fall. There's a middle group where a majority of people are at. And within that, group, you probably have segmentation where there's an upper 40, there's people above 40, and there's people below 40. Yeah. We talked about this the other day because I'm really big on this. It goes back to the finding your replacement and building the culture you want. We need to pull as many of these people into here as we can. And I think that is the most important job of this group here. Because you are in the front line with these people more than anyone else. I will tell you that. As an expectation, you are pulling people in this upper 70% group to this elite level. That's one of my expectations I have for you. Okay? That's building and sustaining culture. That's moving things forward. Does that make sense? In this bottom group, the people that are closest to this middle level, we want to try and move here. You always want to be moving people up as a leader. Moving people up. You've been around long enough. Most of our turnover happens in this group, true? The people that aren't reliable, that don't have the soft skills, they don't show up, they don't want to work breaks. How often have you dealt with that? I think I've heard Joey say that about 3 dozen times. What are you working on? Break schedule, accompanied with an eye roll. Break schedule. What's that mean? No, we're trying to fill it. People aren't doing their commitment. Okay. You can try and give some attention, but at some point you have to realize it's a lost cause. They're just not going to buy it. It's not the right place at the right time. It's not a bad thing. It's just not a good thing for your organization at that time. Okay. There's not a lot we can do here. But sometimes with a personal connection, we can get people here and then hop up. How many of you in this room started working at the rec center and you didn't think a whole lot about it, or one of the full-time staff or one of the student managers, such as yourselves, came up to you and said, you know what? I think you're really good. Did that happen to any of you? And we started acting like frogs, leapfrogging from place to place. Okay? good things. Okay? That's my biggest expectation, is pull people here. Don't understand. Okay. Can I trust you're going to do that? I'm giving you the trust to do that? What's your action plan for it? How are you going to evaluate it? What kind of energy are you going to show to get people to want to do that? What kind of emotional intelligence are you going to exhibit when someone's complaining about something? How are you going to think past the drama and work on a solution? Okay. You guys have any questions for me? Kara, I'm sorry, I cheated them out 10 minutes. And you're saying, I think it's saying that's 50 minutes too long, huh? Okay.
I think you timed yourself well.
Same. 50 minutes. But I want to sum up by saying I appreciate everything we do. Believe me, if I'm not coming up to you all the time and saying that, I want you to know that I do appreciate you. Will we have conflict at times? Will we have discussion at times? Yes, but that's what you want. It's better than not knowing anything that's going on and then not having awareness, and then come this time, you get shocked out of your boots. We don't want that. We're going to keep going forward with our solutions. You're going to hear me talk about ambassadors a lot this weekend. This is, I don't know how I would label this year exactly. This is a big transition year for us. That's the best way to put it. We've got new facilities that have just come online in the past year that we're really excited about. And we have a big old facility that's no longer here. Okay? And how we're moving forward with that. Okay. The single best thing to hear when people are complaining to you about the rec not having enough space, we can't do this, we can't do that, we want to, is you need to share that with me. Or share that with my colleagues. Okay? Because I can tell you we're working very closely with student government to always improve our situation. Okay? From a facility standpoint. The facilities we have are going to be utilized very heavily. And it's going to be great. We're going to work through it fine. It's an exciting year. There's a lot of new opportunities, especially in the fitness area that we didn't have before. Court spaces and multi-purpose rooms. It's going to be a challenge. So if you hear those things, I want you to know it's not a surprise. Yes, we've heard it 3,000 times. It's okay. I'll hear it another 3,000 times. We'll continue to. All we can do is continue to present our case and move forward, and just be the best we could be at what we're doing. If we keep doing those things, we're going to be successful. And while we may not serve this year's students the way we'd like, maybe we could set it forward for the future to serve the future students better. So it'll be a year of transition, but it's also an exciting year. A new president is very gung-ho about recreation, so is his wife. There's been pictures of him biking around campus in town in a suit. So he's very much into that space. One of the first things he said when he came on campus was there's not enough rec space. That's good for us to do. Because he recognizes the value of it and will continue to develop those things. But it's a year of transition, it's a year of a lot of excitement. There'll be some bumps in the road as we're a lot more spread out across campus than we've ever been, so those are unique challenges and opportunities for us, but we'll move the needle and move forward. So. Terry, is there anything else you want me to talk about? Or any other questions? Hearing crickets. Tara, what's next?
My students are doing survey.
Okay. Terry, what's your group doing?
We're gonna take a 10-minute break and come back here and talk about expectations, contracts, and all that kind of stuff. second. Thank you, Ron, for coming to talk.
Thank you, I
to us.
appreciate all of you.